begin with roll call, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Keel is excused. Councilmember Wood.
Councilmember Wood, present.
Councilmember McCluskey. I'm here. Councilmember Fleming. Councilmember Belisi.
Councilmember Belisi, present.
Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa.
Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa, present.
Mayor Worthington.
Mayor Worthington, present.
You have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. And we'll proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to invite Councilmember Fleming to lead us in the pledge tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember Fleming. And at this point, I would entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa. I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
This is Councilmember Belisi. I second.
Thank you, Councilmember Lisi. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa. And let's see, is there any objections to the approval of the agenda as distributed this evening? I see none, and the agenda is approved as distributed. We have presentations this evening, and we have a presentation to start with from Tacoma Public Utilities regarding a rate proposal. And thank you. Latasha Wortham. Thank you for joining us, and if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself briefly.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Worthington and members of the City Council. My name is Latasha Wortham. I'm the Regional Relations Manager and Government Relations for Tacoma Public Utilities. Did it go off?
I think the microphone did go off.
Oh, my apologies. There we go.
Okay.
Oh, now I can hear myself. I guess that is definitely on. So again, my name is Latasha Wortham. I'm the Regional Government Relations Manager for Tacoma Public Utilities. And today I'm going to speak a little bit about our proposal for rate adjustments for the 23-24 biennium. I do have with me, I believe, virtually, our two of our staff, one from Tacoma Power and one from Tacoma Water. Ying Hall is a power section manager from Tacoma Power, and Andrew Zarimba is the utility economist from Tacoma Water. And we're just so glad to be with you. I'm so glad to be with you in person after for so long. So really appreciate you inviting me here today. I do want to emphasize that the proposal today is just that. It is a proposal. It will not be final until after it goes to our Public Utility Board, and then ultimately the Tacoma City Council approves all rate adjustments. And so there's ample opportunity today for you to give us any feedback or have any questions that you answered that you might have. And then also, if you want to go directly to the policymakers, there'll be opportunities for a public hearing that's going to be happening, or if you want to write in and add any comments, that's available as well. So we wanted to come to you early and give plenty of time for you and your constituents to weigh in if they would like to. I know most of you are familiar with Tacoma Public Utilities, and so if I could have the next slide, please. And so I'm not going to spend a great deal of time talking through who we are, because I think most of you know. And certainly if you have any questions about who we are or you want to learn more, I'm always available and happy to answer any questions or to take you on tours or do any kind of fun things like that if you want to learn more about the utility. So I won't spend too much time on it today, but just want to highlight some things about Tacoma Public Utilities. So we serve power and water in University Place, and we have about 183 power customers. 183,000 power customers, and we have about 109,000 water customers. And in University Place, there's 15,000 power customers, just over 15,000, and just about 9,200 water customers. And so we're very proud to serve them here. We also have a short line rail that mostly does business down at the Port of Tacoma, and so that's not something you see directly in University Place, but certainly some of the goods and services that you receive are through some of the support of Tacoma Rail. So wanted to share that with you, and certainly happy to do more breakdowns or give you more information if you're interested in that. If I could have the next slide, please. And so a little more about us. We are a public, not-for-profit utility. So that means that we don't have investors. And so all of the money that we collect goes back into supporting the utility and back out to programs and services that we have for our customers as well. We want to be sure that our services are safe and reliable, and the rates that we have help us maintain our utility infrastructure as well as protect natural resources near our facilities at our dams and our Green River watershed where our water comes from. We've been a part of this community, Tacoma community and surrounding community since 1893. We are led by, I want to say being a part of the community doesn't mean we just serve people power and water. We actually have employees that are very invested in the community. In fact, last year we raised over $381,000 to give back to our community through nonprofits. And we also, employees volunteered over 1,800 hours at nonprofits throughout our service territory. So we really mean trying to be in the community and trying to serve folks, not just these vital services, but also through other social programs to help our customers. We are led by a public utility board. There's a 5-member board. It is appointed by the mayor of Tacoma and approved by the Tacoma City Council, and they are all volunteers from the communities. And then our director, Jackie Flowers, runs the utility, and she was first appointed in 2018. As you will find out today, during this presentation, we do our best to keep our community engaged in our budget and rates proposal cycle. And so we really encourage you to let your constituents know. We can provide text for you for social media or newsletters or anything so that customers will know how they can reach us to give feedback on our rate proposal. Next slide, please. Sorry about that. So this is our service territory, and so between power and water, we have about 180 square miles of service that we provide. So, of course, we are Tacoma Public Utility, but we serve the surrounding area, of course, University Place, Faircrest, Fife, JBLM, and then lots of parts of Pierce County, to name a few. We serve several jurisdictions, but those are a few that you would recognize. And we are very proud that our predecessors were really ahead of their time. So they built these large dams. We have carbon-free now power that we're able to sell at a very reduced rate if you compare it to anywhere else in the country. And so we're very proud of that. And we also have our Green River watershed that is really gravity-based, and so we don't require a lot of pumps and electricity to actually do our get clean water to everyone. So, back in the 1800s, they were actually very inventive and knew what we would need into the future. So we try and keep those assets ready and available so that we can serve everyone. Next slide, please. Our board and leadership at the City of Tacoma and within Tacoma Public Utilities has been very clear that we are going to have an equity focus as we move forward into serving our customers and everything that we do at the utility, and we're very proud of that. So we have been committed to achieving equity in our service delivery, workforce, and stakeholder and community engagement. When we talk about equitable services, we want to be sure that our programs are available to everyone without a barrier. So we're working hard to remove barriers so that customers have access, they know how to contact us. We go to them so that they don't always have to try and find us. We can be out in the community where they might need those services. And then also in our workforce, we really want the workforce to reflect the community that we serve. And we are far from that. We traditionally have not had a lot of younger people or a lot of BIPOC communities within the utility, and so we're working hard to correct that, to get people who are qualified from diverse backgrounds to join our team. So, we always have our job postings. If you want to put that out to your constituents, we would love to get, a wide range of folks applying for those jobs that are available. And then in stakeholder engagement, we want to be sure that people understand what's happening with our services, what's happening with our rates. We want to be sure that we're getting out to, obviously our policymakers, but also our community groups and people who are receiving our services. And we are committed to also ensuring that the top 5 languages that are spoken in our utility service area, that our materials are also in those languages so that people don't have a barrier to understanding what their utility bills are or how they can get assistance if they need it. Next slide, please. So our portfolio, again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I did tell you that we have some of the cleanest energy in the world. We have an ample water supply. You may hear folks really concerned about whether or not we have enough water for folks to continue to have drinking water and all of those things, but we absolutely do. And you would be the first to know if that ever changed, because we would be asking people to conserve even more. We do believe in conservation. We do promote conservation, and actually folks in our service territory are also very committed to it. So it's something that we continue to work on. But it's not because we don't have ample water now, but we want to continue to have ample water into the future. And so wanted to just mention that to you, and then you can see many of the other services that we have and that we're taking care of in our portfolio, and we'll be pleased to answer any questions about those if you had them. So now I just wanted, next slide, please. So now I'd like to talk to you a little bit about our rate principles. So I've shared this with you probably 2 or so years ago. I've lost a lot of weight since then, so some people don't think I look the same, but it is still Latasha. I'm still the same person that you saw virtually 2 years ago. And we talked a little bit about these same principles, which is we have gradual increases instead of large spikes. So yes, while we're increasing every couple of years, if we didn't, we would end up having a very large spike in that 4th or 5th year. That would be difficult for customers to really to address in an easy way. And so we decided that we want to have gradual, consistent, stable, and predictable rates for our customers, so that they know what they're going to be each year, and that there's not, a large spike over time. And we do bill only for the cost of services. So for each jurisdiction, what it costs us to serve them is what they are paying. In each rate class, what it costs you. When I say rate class, I mean there's residential, there's business, there's small business, there's commercial, there's industrial. So all of the rate classes have different needs and also have different rates. And so we charge only for the rate class that particular service customer is in. Next slide, please. Oh, they got it already. So why adjust the rates? That's the question that everyone is always asking. Now, I come each time and I say no one likes rate increases, right? Including myself. I don't like rate increases either, but I do understand the need for them. And I do understand that we have over $2.5 billion in assets, right? And that it's really expensive to maintain those assets, and we have to be sure that we are reliable and that we have the services that people need. And so for right now, the major reason that we're adjusting rates is inflation. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. That's happening to everyone everywhere with everything, right? So everything that you all are experiencing, everything that your constituents are experiencing, we are as well. So at the gas pump, when things went up, we're experiencing that as well. We have to feed the fish that we have, that we are taking care of, and that we have at our fish hatcheries, that we are required to mitigate for some of the dams that we have. Would love to take you all out to see it. It's pretty cool. But we have to take care of those things, and there's inflation costs with all of those. And then, of course, the supply chain delays. I think, again, you have a city, you probably all are experiencing that as well. And so we do have the increases there that come with the delays. And so then there's the other costs that I talk to you about every year, our capital cost, our regulatory requirements and compliance costs. So we have all of those things still, but the major story this year really is inflation. And that's what you will see reflected in the rates this time around. But we do our best to manage costs and to do our best to keep them down so that they are affordable for people. During the pandemic, we did our best to delay projects when we could, and that didn't, require. That didn't make it dangerous for us to delay those costs. We also didn't fill open positions or positions that weren't critical at the time. But what ends up happening when we do that is it leaves a gap, right? And so eventually those positions have to be filled in order for us to continue to do the services in the way that we need to. And so we are getting to the point where we need to make those hires, and we're doing that now. We also increased assistance programs during COVID, and we're going to continue to increase assistance programs as we raise rates in order to help those who are income qualified, who maybe have lower income and need those assistance programs. And so, but those assistance programs do cost, so that's also added into the rates as well. Next slide, please. And so here we now have the rates for 23 and 24. And so for power, there's a 3.5 system average increase. And so that what that means is all the rate classes that I mentioned before, residential, business, small business, industrial, commercial customers. So across all of them, there's a 3.5% average. For residential in particular, there's a 3.9% average increase in 2023, and then an additional 3.9% in 2024. So that's about $3.70 on an average bill. Now, average means the typical bill. There are some bills that will be higher than that, of course, because they don't use it typically like everyone else, or lower than that because they really conserve and they could potentially be paying less. So it is an average. And so for water, there's a 4% average, a system average increase, and that's about 4.2% for residential in 2023, or $2.05 per month, and then an additional 4.2% in 2024, or $2.10 a month. Now, for University Place, next slide, please. You're going to see just slightly higher because you all know that there's an additional 6% on top of that. So for University Place Power, we're looking at $3.97 in 2023, and then per month in 2023, and an additional $3.97 per month in 2024. So the average bill goes from $105 up to about $113 by the time you get to 2024. And then this next slide does a comparison, and I have to apologize, there was a typo in here. This should have been $110 and it's $102 because it's University Place, but even at $110 it would still come in at the same rate, right? So it would be second there under Snohomish. And what I have to say is,
I'm sorry, you said 100, it's 102, but it should be 110?
yeah, because for University Place, if you look at the previous slide, if you add $3.97 to the current average bill, you get $109.66. So it's about 110. I just rounded up just a little bit. And so the numbers that we have for Snohomish and Snowpud and Seattle City Light and PSC are actually 2022 numbers. So we don't have the 23 numbers yet. So even our 23 numbers are still among the lowest in the region. So even with us using our 2023 numbers and using their 2022 numbers, so their averages are going to be higher because everyone honestly is going to have to raise rates this year due to inflation. We just don't know what their rates are yet. So we're still in good shape in terms of us having some of the lowest rates in the region. Same for water, and we use like utilities, and so here, I'm skipping ahead. So here for University Place, the increase is going to be about $2.20 in 2023 and $2.25 in 2024, and so that would give you an average bill of $56.66. And then on the next slide, you will see where we compare, again, some of the lowest in the region. But it's interesting because we try to compare like utilities, but it depends on what a like utility is. Some utilities, like us, do wholesale water. Some don't do wholesale water. Some accept wholesale water, but don't have their own water utilities. So it's a little bit different with water. So we did our best to use some good comparisons. But again, we're still among the lowest in the region when you compare to 2022 numbers. And we recognize that customers still have needs in our community. We recognize coming out of COVID that there's a lot of folks who are still not employed or still underemployed or took so much time off of work that or out of work that they now have to do some catch up. And we do know that there's customers in need always in our area. We have some of the highest rate of low income folks in the TPU service area. So we want to be sure that we have programs available for them in order to address that need. During the last year, the Public Utility Board and Tacoma City Council agreed to increase the level of assistance for income qualified seniors and people with disabilities. We used to have a 30% discount for them. We now have a 35% discount rate for low income folks who are seniors or people with disabilities. We also have the Bill Credit Assistance Program plan, and that program assists folks who are income qualified at 60% of the area median income. And that provides them a credit on their bill if they pay on time and they pay their entire bill each month. And so that credit had traditionally been up to $672 if you have all 5 services. So for power and water only, it's a little bit less. It just depends on what services you have. And so that was the credit. And we are proposing a BCAP plus credit in our upcoming budget. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about that actually on the next slide. And so our BCAP Plus program, our current BCAP program would give a $21 credit for power and a $9 credit for water each month if you pay your bill in full and on time. And so that would just get added to your bill. It ends up being about 20% of your bill if you pay on time each month. The BCAP Plus program, which is what we are working to get added, and we're pretty confident that the policymakers will want to do this, will give an automatic credit to anyone who is income qualified and signed up for the program of $18 a month for power and $4 a month for water. And then they could get an additional credit, the plus credit, if they pay on time and their full bill. So this removes quite a little bit of a barrier because previously you could only have to be on time and fully paid to get a credit. Now you'll automatically get a credit if you qualify with income, but you could get an additional credit if you actually pay on time and pay your full bill. And we offer them to go to classes to get financial assistance. We partner with folks throughout the community to help us do that. So all of that is to help them achieve the full credit. And you can see what the totals would be. So for power, you could get a credit of up to $468 in a year, and for water, $108 for a year. And we also know that people will be, those same folks will be eligible for federal programs like the low-income household energy program, so LIHEAP, when that opens. And we do believe for power in particular, if a customer qualifies for this program and stays current, they would actually almost have a zero bill when they qualified with LIHEAP for power. So we really want to encourage people to sign up for BCAP. Please spread the word. Please have them look at our website. We know that the program is underutilized, but there are a lot of people who are in need. So we hope that you will pass that along. And I've left some information on your back table. So if you or constituents want to reach out to us, please do, and you'll have my contact information as well. For power, they almost doubled their credit, and it's going to continue to go up as rates adjust too. So we may see these numbers change just a little bit because the rates are not final yet. But power is going to continue to have that double credit because one thing that we know about folks in our community is that over half of them are renters. And when you're a renter, you don't really necessarily have the ability to do conservation projects or to be energy efficient in the home because you don't own the home. It's up to the landlord to do that. And so we know that the burden then lands a lot on those renters who don't really have the ability to change the situation in their home. And so Power has decided to try and put in this great incentive to help people in that way. Mm-hmm. And then also I talked a little bit about conservation already, but there are ways that people can lower their costs. We actually have help for people who want to be energy efficient, so we ask them to contact us. We have zero interest loans, deferred loans. We can help point them in the right direction of what type of appliances to have or how to get a heat pump. all of those things. And so we really encourage them to check out mytpu.org. And there are just a number of avenues there where you can see about energy efficiency, where you can learn about our assistance programs. And then also, if they go to tpu.org/rates, you can find out all about our rates and when there's going to be public meetings that folks can come to as well. And so this last slide is just to remind you about the public hearing that is on the 28th at the Public Utility Board. And we're looking for that time, any comments that anyone throughout the community has about the rate proposal. And so please feel free to join in or to send comments if you have them. And there's a number of other things you can do on our website, as well as you can subscribe to the rates emails or the newsletters so that you can stay informed. And then lastly, again, I'm Latasha Wortham, Regional Relations Manager, and this is my contact information. That's my cell phone number. I do answer my cell phone and get back to you just as soon as possible. We're virtual for, over 2 years, and so calling my desk got no one anywhere. The best thing to do is to email or to call my cell phone, and I promise to get back to you. And I want to, again, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. I know you all have lots of business to cover, so again, I thank you for your time, and we are happy to entertain any questions.
Well, Latasha, thank you very much. Appreciate your coming in and helping us be aware of the upcoming potential rate increase, and then the hearing on the 28th of September. Will that be a in-person only, a hybrid hearing? What's the format?
It is hybrid,
Okay.
and on our website, you can find the link that you would go to participate virtually, and then you can also show up in person and testify in person as well.
Okay. Very good. Appreciate that. Council, we do have a rather full agenda. If there's a burning question, we can head in that direction. Otherwise, we'll step to the next item. But, okay, I think we'll move on to the next one. Latasha, again, thank you.
so
Good to
much.
see you. And it is nice to see you in person, and as opposed to how we've had to do business until just recently. So,
Thank you so much, Mayor. You all have a great night.
you too. Take care. Well, with that, I'm going to step off the dais to make a presentation and move on to our next item. I have a proclamation to present this evening, and I believe that Jack Eklund, our, Engineering Director, Public Works Interim Director, Park Director, Maintenance and Building Director, or something like that. Yeah, okay. Jack is going to receive this item from us this evening. And so, Council and the community, I'd like to make the following proclamation. Whereas we resolve to protect Puget Sound and its tributaries, which are the source of our community's well-being, health, economy, and quality of life. And whereas we acknowledge that we're on the land of the Koshalish, who have stewarded this land from time immemorial. And whereas a healthy and vibrant Puget Sound defines our Northwest culture, as do our Indigenous people's stories, our tribal treaty responsibilities, and our shared legacy for future generations. And whereas the health of Puget Sound is declining, and creatures and plants, great and small, from our bull kelp forest and salmon to our orcas and shellfish, and creatures are at risk from human impacts, a stormwater runoff, loss of natural habitats, and challenging climate. Whereas we have the power to protect our Puget Sound treasures, work together to discover and take clean water actions through Puget Sound Starts Here campaign. And whereas in the month of September, City of University Place will join with other governing bodies, organizations, and community groups to strengthen stewardship of our shared watershed and encourage all to take action to improve the health of Puget Sound. Now, therefore, the City Council, the City of University Place, does hereby proclaim the month of September 2002 as Puget Sound Starts Here Month in the City of University Place, and urge its residents to support clean water, healthy habitat by joining this special observance and discover how to make a difference and be part of the solution. Proclaimed by the City Council, the City of University Place, September 6th, 2022. Well, very good, Jack. I have that for you.
All right, thank you.
Anything you'd like to add?
I think you covered it.
All right. Well, thank you. Very good. And we'll go back to our And that brings us to public comments. And I would like to invite members of the public to come up and speak to the City Council and the community. You'll have 3 minutes available to you on your screens. If you're at home, you can see the process for which you can, by computer, raise your hand on your virtual settings and to mute your camera and mic, and then we'll notify you how to, or when we identify you, and turn those back on. We also will take telephone comments as well. And again, you can see that process, but press *5 to raise your hand. When I call out the last 4 digits of your phone number, press *6 to unmute. And with that, first we'll start with people that have signed up previously. And with that, we have David Hargrove is, I believe, assigned to make a comment this evening. I invite Mr. Hargrove to come forward. And Mr. Hargrove, as you recall, you have 3 minutes, and just state your name and address is a good place to start.
Okay, my name is David Harrow. I reside here in University Place at 4616 79th Avenue, Court West. My comment is about the proposed Chambers Bay Resort in Chambers Bay Regional Park. Part of this proposal is to construct townhouse-style housing units for people to reside in the park, and there is no limit as to how long they can live there. I think that aspect of the proposal is controversial, and I would, at this time, respectfully request the City Council to authorize a public hearing on this development proposal to give people an opportunity to express their views regarding this intended development. And that's all I really came to say.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate your comments, and Council will take note. Thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts. Is there anyone else in tonight's audience that would like to make a comment to the City Council? I don't see anyone. This would be about an item not on the agenda. If you have an interest in an item on the agenda, we'll have an opportunity for comment a little later. And I'm not seeing anyone online. Do you see anyone there? And any other staff or other individuals, anyone asking for a comment opportunity? Okay. All right. With that, we'll end the open comment period for tonight. Thank you. That brings us to our first action item.
Mayor?
Excuse me. Brings us to consent agenda. Is that, yeah, thank you. Just had to flip the page there. All right. And is there a motion to approve or adjust the consent agenda?
Mayor, this is Javier Figueroa, and I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as proposed.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a second?
Councilmember Belisi, I second.
We have a primary motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as distributed. Is there any, does anyone object to the approval of the agenda or the consent agenda, excuse me? Anyone object to that approval? Okay. Then I'll declare the consent agenda approved. And now we'll move on to council considerations. And with that first item, item 8 is the Chambers Creek Road, Chambers Lane Phase 1 bid award. And I think Mr. Eklund is somewhere here. Where to? Oh, there. Oh, all right. I don't know why I was looking in the room. It just seemed like it would be
Well,
that
you
way.
disappeared.
It's like magic.
I keep you move around, keep you guessing.
Very good.
So anyway, so we have a number of bid awards for tonight, which is exciting. Always good to get things moving. The first one we're talking about tonight is the Chambers Creek Road, Chambers Lane bid award. This is the project that we received federal funds from for improving Chambers Creek Road, Chambers Lane, from Bridgeport Way out to basically all the way through to the 81st, which is approximately that first Charles Wright entrance by their bus barn. And that will be improving with sidewalks, curb and gutter, street lighting, landscaping, and so forth, that whole corridor on both sides of the street. We had the bid opening for this project back on August 4th. We received 6 bids. Olson Brothers Excavating Inc., they submitted the lowest responsible bid in the amount of $2,490,994.30. Now, it is important to note that this bid itself, all the bids came in quite a bit above our engineer estimate, in this case about 25% above our estimate. However, we have spoken with, so that this project is primarily funded through a grant through the Federal Highway Administration, which is administered through WashDOT local programs. We reached out to WashDOT local programs, and they were able to approve us for an additional $685,094 in additional federal funding for this project, which will not only cover the bid cost, but also we have about a little over 10% contingency built into this. So this, I'm confident that is sufficient to do the work. And then just only aside on those additional costs, it wasn't anything out of order. We reviewed the bids, everything looked reasonable. It's just a matter of today's days and time with the cost increases with materials, primarily high, both concrete and asphalt costs are the primary culprits on this. Being with that, I recommend awarding this contract, and the motion and the bid tabs you will find in your council packet, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Very good, Mr. Eklund. Thank you. Does council have any clarifying questions before we move on to public comment? Okay. So this evening we have this and 2 other items that we'll be taking public comment on. The process for public comment is essentially the same process we just went through in the general public comment. People can identify themselves in the audience, come forward, they'll have 3 minutes to make their comment. We also have the ability for folks online to make comment, and we have the phone process that I earlier described as well, and that's on the screens for those of you at home. Those in the chamber here can just identify yourself, and I'll invite you up. We're going to repeat this same process for the next 2 items, and I think what I'd like to do is just explain this one time, and then we'll use that same process for the next 2 items as well. With that, any public comment? And I don't see any. Again, if you could just double check for me online. I don't see anything raised there, but I sort of like to have a second pair of eyes on this part. Thank you. All right. With that, we'll move on to council discussion. And so in the council discussion,
I make a motion to.
Oh, yes.
I make a motion to authorize the city manager to award the Chambers Creek Road, Chambers Lane Phase 1 project to Olson Brothers Excavating, Inc. in the amount of $2,490,994.30 and execute all necessary contract documents.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa. Is there a second?
Councilmember Belisi, I second.
Motion and a second. We're ready for discussion. So does any council member have a comment they wish to make? And I'm going to ask council members to use hands rather than the device at the moment. The sun's a little bit of an issue. Yeah, so I don't see any hands, and I mean physical hands. So, all right, good. I see no questions or discussion. We're ready for the vote. Emmy, if you would, please.
Councilmember Wood?
Councilmember Wood, aye.
Councilmember McCluskey?
Councilmember McCluskey, aye.
Councilmember Fleming? Councilmember Belisi?
Councilmember Belisi, aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa?
Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa, aye.
Mayor Worthington.
Mayor Worthington, aye.
Mayor, vote result 6-0, motion passes.
Thank you. The motion is passed, and the bid award is, the bid has been awarded. Brings us to our next item, item 9. Jack, I assume you're going to help us on this as well. So this is the grant. Could you tell us about the Grandview Drive overlay bid award, please?
Yes, so here's another one of our bids. We had this on August 9th. This is for an overlay of Grandview Drive. This would be between 48th Street, which is that kind of the street on the to the north of the Public Workshop, the intersection there, and all the way down to 62nd Street West, which is the roundabout entrance to the Chambers Bay Golf Course. So it's about 5,000 feet of a Grandview Drive that would be overlaid. Also would be improving, updating the ADA ramps to current accessibility standards. Well, generally that's what's on the docket for that one. We held our bids. We received, in this one, we received 2 bids. Tucci and Sons provided the lowest responsive bid in the amount of $1,02,894.00. This project also is funded through an FHWA grant that covers 86.5% of the cost of the project. Also, similar to the past one, these bids did come in over the estimate. In this case, about 15% over the estimate. And similar to the last one, we also reached out to WashDOT for additional funding, and we received approval for an additional $453,183 of federal funds to be programmed into this project. So that, once again, will fund the full project as well as reasonable contingencies. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and I recommend the award as noted in the council bill in your packet.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. Questions from council? Any clarifying questions? Don't see any. And I invite the public to make comment at this point as well. Again, our process was outlined earlier. I don't see any hands or folks prepared to make comment on this in the room. And Emmy, do you see anything online? We don't. Then we're going to move on to and entertain a motion for this item.
Excuse me. Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa. I make a motion to authorize the city manager to award the Grandview Drive West overlay project to Tucci and Sons, Inc. in the amount of $1,02,894 and execute all necessary contract documents.
Very good. And is there a second?
Councilmember Belisi, I second.
Thank you, Councilmember Belisi. So we have a proper motion for approval. Any discussion? I don't see any discussion. Emmy, it's yours for a vote.
Councilmember Wood.
Councilmember Wood, aye.
Councilmember McCluskey.
Councilmember McCluskey, aye.
Councilmember Fleming. Councilmember Belisi.
Councilmember Belisi, aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa.
Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa, aye.
Mayor Worthington.
Mayor Worthington, aye.
Vote result 6-0, motion passes.
Thank you. The bid award for the Grandview Drive overlay has been completed and awarded. Brings us to item number 10. Not a bid award, but a little different action. But we will have our public comment involved here as well. And Jack, perhaps with Matt Kaiser, City Attorney's help, if you could help us prepare for this item.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. So tonight, this one we have for your consideration a resolution to basically reserve an area in Cirque Park for a future inclusive playground. As you all are aware, we have been approached by the University Place Parks and Recreation Foundation for a desire to build a inclusive playground at Cirque Park, and there are several representatives from the foundation here in attendance at the meeting. We have in the most recent Parks Advisory Commission, the Parks Commission looked at, considered an area, working with staff to identify what could be used, what area at Cirque Park could be built in a manner that wouldn't take away from existing improvements, but also maximize the footprint of the potential future inclusive playground. The map of this area is shown in your council packet. It's approximately 5,400 square feet, plus a couple hundred square feet that would be available for a additional family style restroom. So with that, the Parks Commission considered it, and they unanimously recommended approval of the area that's proposed in both the resolution and the council packet. And also attached to the council packet, you'll see the letter of support from the Parks Commission. And then there are one thing I would just want to note. At this action itself, there is no upfront cost to the city associated with the passage of this resolution. However, if a playground ultimately is fundraised and donated to the city, there is a potential for additional annual costs, which are presently unknown. However, the foundation has indicated a desire to pursue fundraising could also help with these ongoing maintenance costs. And then as just to direct the resolution in the packet, and currently this resolution is purely associated with designating the area for the future playground. We do contemplate that once fundraising is placed and we get to a point for a final design and so forth, that there will be a subsequent action with council to review and approve this item. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, and I recommend a passing of the motion that is noted in your council bill.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Eklund. Does council have any questions to begin with? Excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. Jack, and sorry for squinting because the sun is just right in my eyes, but the area that's called proposed area to be reserved versus the pink area that's committed. Two questions. One is, on the area that's committed, it is set for RCO grant. Is that going to be, because I thought I heard that this was not going to be a cost to the city. So if it's not, I'm just confused about the RCO grant. I know what that is, but is the city going to fund all the improvements on the pink area that's committed? And we're the ones that's going to be submitting that? I'm not clear.
Sure, and it's confusing. So on that, there is the pink area that's shown in the packet, which is about 3,500 square feet. That's an area where we had actually 2 years ago had applied for and were successful at receiving funding to replace and upgrade the existing more conventional playground there at the site. We received we got approval to get funding from RCO. Unfortunately, with some of the there are some restrictions or some sort of allocation of funds from the federal government, because this wing of RCO is funded through the National Park Service. And so there had been delay in actually giving funding to us, although we have got word this week that has finally been released from DC, and we should be getting the agreement shortly to be able to move forward with our aspect. So that's something that's already committed to build a conventional playground with specific features. One thing and so that's why it's designated, because the RCO grant is very specific to both what you're building and where you're building it, right?
So when you say specific features, are you talking about as an incorporation of the inclusive playground features?
In this case, the application hadn't contemplated specifically inclusive playground features, but so many slides and swings and so forth. One thing that's looking likely, which is timing is rather exciting, based on, I guess you usually don't want to see a delay in receiving your funds, but in this case, it may be fortuitous that we're able to have our section or the RCO section funded of a more conventional type of thing, but it's going to be able to then be designed and incorporated, or the inclusive playground elements designed and incorporated around it. So from the public standpoint, this is going to look like one fully comprehensive playground, even though there'll be separate funding sources for each. So the pink is something already both budgeted and funded, both for the city park impact fee and the RCO dollars. And then that green area on the map would be the fundraising that it would be anticipated by the for the inclusive playground.
So just to make sure, and I understand, I just want to get to the bottom of this, and that is the pink area committed, that's not part of the inclusive playground design, correct?
It won't be part of the design. However, the inclusive playground will be designed to incorporate around it and fit and to look seamlessly by the time we're done.
I understand it's going to be adjacent right there, but that specific area will not include inclusive benefits.
It'll probably have some. So probably the surfacing would be similar, some of the other elements, and but it will have also more conventional things as well. But the good news is the group that we have, so we have a designer for our elements that has already been designed essentially, but the inclusive group is also, or the foundation is looking at the same design firm to do the inclusive playground, so it'll mesh quite well together.
So let me ask you in a different way here. If this group wanted to add to this pink area after we build it to have a little bit more inclusive benefits, could they donate to add to that? Or is it prohibited?
I think it certainly could be accommodated if that fits with the design of the inclusive. I think that could be. The main thing that we're restricted from the RCO is we need to check off the boxes of what we said we were going to do with the RCO. If we're going to do more, they'll think that's great.
Okay. So that being said, and thank you, I really appreciate that. And that's obviously going to be first. The proposed area is what we really are here to talk about and approve, right? Not so much the pink area.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember McCluskey. Certainly.
Okay, thank you. Just for clarification, the RCO is not a inclusive playground. The design will be incorporated into it because part of the, even though I like the concept of being inclusive and integration of the design structure and concept so that it flows and blends and there's no segregation, I think is really important for this council member, but also to service the needs that the RCO grant pointed out and that we acquired it for the age group of 5 to 12-year-olds that we don't have any play structure for. So that when a parent brings their children, no matter what capability, to our park, they will be able to use this feature. And also, I would be, as a council member, very interested in seeing the design concepts when it's ready to come forward, because as you know, I'm very interested in that playground structure. And because it's going to be an integrated structure, it'll be a regional draw, so I will be really sensitive to the quality, the expertise, so that we can make it just a wow feature at Cirque Park, so it can be a destination stop for all families. Thanks.
We did have a really a really great meeting this last Friday with both the University Place Parks and Rec Foundation, also the design group, and as well as the Cal Ripken Senior Organization, which is looking at doing some stepping in to help with the fundraising and so forth. But the design concepts that they showed were very exciting, and I'm sure I'm looking forward to what they come with, and they are, at least what they're showing us, in that same mindset to be a regional type of destination draw, which is something that would be a really a nice asset to the community.
And it's also my understanding in this resolution that the UP Parks and Rec Foundation is not going to continue fundraising in perpetuity for the maintenance. We will take on the maintenance after the completion of this play structure. I know it had alluded to the fact that if there's additional fundings, it could go to the cost, which is very good, very gracious. Appreciate that. But that I concur it should be handed over to the city for maintenance and upgrades. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Any other questions before we go to public comment?
Mayor.
Yes. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Jack, one more, please, and that is on the proposed, I'm trying to make sure I understand, the area that this group would raise money to build out. And I understand the beige portion of that to be reserved for inclusive playground, but the blue that says proposed ADA public restroom, is that part of what this group will also fund? Is that part of what will be the agreement in the future, or is that something separate that we would do once they're done?
Their goal would be to have that all part of the same fundraising package. So they are wanting to put that all together. They've identified that as a need for and this would be like a family style ADA accessible restroom with a little bit larger size changing facilities that could allow some of the special needs for changing needs. And so they feel it's integral to the playground itself. It's just differentiated in a different color to show where that would be in relation to the existing restroom.
It's just a quick recommendation, and that would be to color that in as the same color that would match this group's, what there would be fundraising for. So in the future, the public looking at this doesn't see it differently.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, you're welcome. Any other questions? Nope. All right. Very good. Then this is an opportunity to hear any public comments we have, and I would invite folks to come forward. We do have one person who had signed up previously to comment on this item, and I'd like to start with, that would be Frank Erickson. And Mr. Erickson, I believe, is associated with the Rotary Club of University Place. So please come forward, and you have our attention and 3 minutes for your comment. Yes. And looks like, I think that mic is on. We'll find out in a second.
Okay. Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay, good, thanks. About 20 years ago, the local Rotary Club here helped build an inclusive playground in Puyallup on South Hill. And I don't know if any of you were members of the club at that time. Ed, I don't know. About 20 years ago, we did, and it was
That's going to be correct.
this last year. I'm sorry.
Mr. Erickson, this seems odd, but could I ask you to state your name and address for the record?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
Frank Erickson, address is 4408 86th Avenue West, University Place. And I'm here representing the Rotary Club. And I want to assure you, I'm doing that because I want to assure everybody that this is really a community event. This is not just one small group of people bringing this on and going to drop it on the city. This is truly a community event. Last year, we decided as a Rotary Club that we were going to get back involved in the inclusive playground and try to build one in University Place. Fortunately, at the same time, we found that there were other people, other groups that wanted to do the same thing. So we got together with them, and we've joined together to create the University Place Parks and Recreation Foundation. And there's somebody here that will speak for that foundation, a couple of people. But I just wanted to make sure that you're aware that the local Rotary Club is involved in this, and as is the local Kiwanis Club, actually. So it is a true community event. And I'd also like to comment a little bit about what's been happening in the last just the last few months since we've started this. We've had a lot more comments from the community, a lot more people, community members wanting to join the organization. We've had funders, potential funders come in and help us with not just the fundraising, but with the design and all aspects of it. So it really is going to be a community event, and I'm proud of our local Rotary Club that rather than going off on our own, that we decided to do the right thing and join with the rest of the community to build something that we hope will be a real attraction for the community.
Thank you, Mr. Erickson. Appreciate that. Apparently good timing, too. That is the only name that we have previously signed up. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to make comment? Please.
Hello, University Place City Council. I'm Blake Guyan. My address is 7710 Cirque Drive West, Apartment C. I am glad the City of University Place is considering building an inclusive park. It would allow children with disabilities with a variety of needs to be able to play on and interact with the equipment. This kind of facility brings people together, and it allows families who are often excluded from recreational areas to feel welcome in a play space. When I was growing up, I didn't have a playground that I could play at. This not only isolated me, but also my parents. I'm happy to live in a community that takes into consideration the needs of all individuals. Thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you, Blake. Appreciate you sharing your thoughts, and those are important comments for us to be aware of. So, thank you. Anyone else that would like to come forward?
Yes, of course.
There we are. All right.
Greetings, City Council and city employees. I'm Chris Saunders, representing University Place Parks and Recreation Foundation, and also United for University Place, which is your local coalition, and first came up with this idea to bring together many areas from the city to take a look at how this might transpire. Speaking on, I'm sorry, I live at 7786 40th Street, Southwest in University Place, West in University Place, there it is. And I'm speaking on behalf of the Inclusive Playground team today. You will remember that 1 year ago tonight, at the City Council meeting, Gary Cooper, now our retired Public Works Director, brought two ladies from Metro Parks to meet with the City Council about a program that they were spearheading with members of our city with disabilities. I happened to be in the audience at that City Council meeting, and in that presentation, it was clear that over 100 of our University Place residents were enrolled in Metro Parks club activities, traveling quite a distance to get access to activities and fulfill social and recreational needs in their lives. As the presentation progressed, it became very clear that outside of the school district, there was very little available for families with members with disabilities in University Place. I know you remember it was quite a surprise to me and everyone here. Tonight, as we consider the vote for the location and the footprint for an inclusive playground, we begin the first steps of rectifying that deficit. Just as a reminder, inclusive does not mean exclusively for children with disabilities, but it means all children playing together regardless of their mobility or cognitive issues. While currently enrolled in our school, while this playground is not resolving all the needs for the 588 children with disabilities currently enrolled in our schools, but it does represent good steps in the right direction. It means we will no longer need to just they will no longer need to just watch others play, but be able to play themselves. It is a very good beginning. Thank you so much for considering this playground. The foundation team has been working very hard this summer to get a strong plan in place to complete this playground. We hope to be back to you with the design by the second City Council meeting in October. We are working on the parking lot issues, as all of you mentioned, with city personnel. We particularly want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa for his comments on having first aid available at the playground. Once the design is approved, a budget will be set and we will head for the fundraising phase. Cal Ripken Senior Foundation is currently discussing this project with us. They're in Maryland, by the way. We hope to soon form a partnership with them for the duration of the project. They will assist in fundraising and building the playground itself. They bring an expertise and experience to the table that the foundation team lacks, as they have completed 111 baseballs and playground structures in many cities in the U.S. Next Tuesday, September 13th at 7 p.m. at Curtis Junior High School Library, we will have a general meeting for the playground with the latest updates for the public. I want to thank the city personnel, Jack Eklund and Tony West, for working with us effectively and efficiently to complete so much work in a very timely fashion to get this far this summer. Just to add an additional comment, yes, the city manages the maintenance, but we are starting a second fund to help with repair so that the facility does not fall to the wayside in the future. So, thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Saunders. Appreciate your comment as well. Anyone else that'd like to make a statement or comment to the City Council at this point? Anyone else? Emmy, do we have anyone online? Or phone calls? All right. Then with that, our public comment section is closed and we can move on to council discussion. Is there someone who'd like to start with a motion?
Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa. I make a motion to adopt a resolution supporting fundraising for an inclusive playground to be located in Cirque Park.
So we have a motion and looking for a second.
Councilmember Belisi, I highly support this as a second.
Very good. We have a second enthusiastically. And how about council discussion? Anyone who would like to start discussion? Councilmember Fleming.
I know we got some mic challenges up here.
Let
Can
me
you hear
get your mic on
This one,
over
Emmy?
here there we go.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make some quick comments. Number one is, we've had several conversations on this, and I know the committee, the foundation, with Chris and Frank and the others have been working on this project for quite some time. This motion that we have before us really doesn't signal anything other than the beginning of a great journey that lays ahead. But what I find really exciting is It's the fact that in the community here, we talk about partnerships with the city, partnerships with the various organizations, partnerships among the citizens here. And this project, I find, kind of checks the box on all of those things. So as we're moving forward and we're doing the fundraising and we're looking into the future, Councilmember Mikulski talked about a regional destination site. This will probably become even more than that, and I think this is really a first in this area. It's visionary. I applaud everyone. I can't wait for us to take the vote on this tonight and get this thing done and really get it out of the corral and really get it moving down the road. But thanks, and certainly to Jack and the rest of the city staff that's worked on this one. This is one of those votes that is really a good one that we can take, because it really does symbolize what this community is all about. So kudos to those that have been here that have spoken tonight, and I think we're going to do well with the council up here. I can't speak for them, but I'm certainly all on board, so thank you.
Very good. Thanks. Thank you, Councilmember Fleming. Councilmember Figueroa, or excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want, it's a kind of clarification before I make a friendly amendment to this action, but and this might be a Matt question, more of a legal question, but in the exhibits, there is it refers to a map. I assume, and I don't want to assume anything in this business, that when it says map, it refers to Exhibit A as presented here, and that when we vote on this, if it was to pass, that it includes Exhibit A specifically. And the reason I'm saying this because it only refers to be located in a certain park. That land which is vague, and actually let me just make it, I can be corrected and voted down. I'll make a motion to amend the council action to continue to say as shown in Exhibit A with a label that says plot date 7/28/2022, 11:38 a.m. and that it includes proposed area to be reserved for an inclusive playground and the proposed ADA public restroom.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa. So the motion is to,
I see that.
yeah, that's the resolution, that's item section 2. Does that address what you're getting to, or perhaps it's
Yes,
something
and
else?
thank you. Except that I think that because there's too many colors here, it's not specifically, and the bottom says RCO. I'd like to have it specifically that it addresses the two proposed areas for the inclusive playground and the proposed ADA public restroom.
Okay.
That way it's very clear.
All right. I would like to get a little more feedback from City Attorney. I'm wondering, though, if we need a second before we do that. So,
We need a second.
yeah, okay.
We need a second.
Yeah. All right. Is there a second on the motion? A second? I don't see a second. All right. So the motion, the original motion stands as originally approved in the resolution, or not approved, excuse me, submitted. Okay. Any further? Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mayor.
Just, I'll get your mic on in just a moment there. There we are, sir.
So just a quick question. Not sure who can provide the answer. Looking at the map and the diagram of the park, is there going to be changes required for accessibility from the parking lot to the designated area for the playground, or will existing sidewalks, ADA accessibility suffice? And if there is going to be changes required, can that be covered by the foundation that's doing the fundraising, even though it may be outside the area of the park that's designated? If you could answer those questions, I'd appreciate it.
So yes and no. So, but and finally yes, I guess in that order. So it's you wouldn't necessarily need new facilities. So the there are some ADA parking stalls that are fully accessible route all the way to this location. However, the foundation is looking at an additional need for parking on the in that gravel strip that's just located to the east of this area, and so it's their desire to add that into the fundraising to also expand that, pave a little section of that gravel area to additional accessible parking. And if that's the case, then some additional routes would need to be built into the playground, which would be part of their fundraising efforts as well. So that's their hope and desire to include all that in to expand the parking needs there.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember Wood. Any other discussion, questions? Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, it's a clarifying question right now. Jack, as far as when it came back from the, and I'm looking at the Park Advisory Commission's recommendation, was there any conversation as to the city's contribution to this from the park capital improvement funds?
At this point, there hasn't been anything specific from that regard. I know the hope from the fundraising efforts would be to fully fund this with the private donations. I know in our conversations with the Cal Ripken group is it's actually cleaner and easier for them to actually not have any governmental funding in the package that they are doing. And so their preference would be to not do that. There would be a potential maybe on the parking lot expansion, maybe if we needed to pitch in some money funding from a park impact fee type of thing, if there needed a little something to get across the board. But currently the goal and intent of the foundation would be to try to fully fund this with donations if possible.
Thank you. That's a good clarification. Thank you.
Councilmember Belisi.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say this warms my heart to see our community come together and identify a need that we have failed to address prior or have not been aware of this particular need to include all members of our community, both children as well as adults that could participate in utilizing an inclusive playground. Until it was brought to my attention, I did not think of this as being a need in our community and a draw. And what makes this even more heartwarming for me and why I'm going to enthusiastically support this is that it's coming from the community. The community is coming together to solicit grants from foundations, but also asking that the community members support this with their donations. So this becomes a part of what we as citizens create in this community. And I hope as this fundraising goes on, and I fully see this as being successful, that the community will also come to realize that there's a cost to maintaining this equipment and will consider further funding the foundation for the ongoing maintenance that this playground will require. With community support in this way, it helps us on the governmental side to be able to refocus in areas that the community may not be able to as easily come forward and financially support it. And we'll have equipment that we can utilize and that we can enjoy, and we have surrounding communities come and see what a wonderful place University Place has. So I am rolling up my sleeves and committing to this project, and I hope that the citizens will do likewise as this moves forward and you gain more information and understanding.
Thank you, Councilmember Belisi. appreciate that. Hearing those comments. And if there aren't any further comments, I'm going to make a comment from my seat, which is this is very exciting. and very pleased to hear about it. To think that it's come, while it's been literally a year from when the issue had some light, to us being much more aware of it, people working hard to put together a game plan, identifying the potential funding sources, working out the next steps, and now we have it in front of us as an action item. I think that's amazing amount of achievement in that year. And it says a lot about the interest and also the power of our community. I think that is great. It's a proud thing to have here and to be part of. I think it says a lot about the city staff, but it's the community that got this rolling, and I certainly don't want to do anything to block momentum. So I'll be enthusiastically supporting this and moving that forward. We've got 588 or more students in our community that are in need of appropriate playing spaces to be inclusive and all. I think this is a very valuable thing to us, and proud to be supporting it. With that, I'm going to call for a vote. And Emmy, can you help us with that?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Wood?
Well, to use the word of the evening, this is an enthusiastic aye.
Councilmember McCluskey?
And I ditto that enthusiastic.
Councilmember Fleming? Councilmember Belisi?
Of course, 100% aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa?
Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa, aye.
Mayor Worthington?
And contagious enthusiasm, aye, yes.
Vote result 6-0. Motion passes.
Very good. It's done. Well done, folks. Very good.
Good work, you guys.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, yes. Now to the next phase, but we know where. Excellent. Well done. We're glad to be part of that. And we are going to move on with our meeting, and we have a city manager report to take us to the next phase of this.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. One item, last week, the National Association of Telecommunications Officers and Advisors, otherwise known as NATOA, met in Denver and awarded University Place, granted 7 awards to University Place for government programming, 4 awards of distinction and 3 awards of honor. You're going to be learning more about those. I believe the awards are being shipped and are on their way, and will be coming to you at a future council meeting. But I just wanted to say thank you and congratulations to Amanda and Linda, who are our communications duo, powerful duo. They once again, showed off their skill on the national level and are bringing home 7 awards. So anyway, you'll learn more about those in the coming weeks.
Do they have to buy a suitcase? Is it a third piece of luggage to check? It's fine if they did.
It's coming by truck now. All right. It's coming from Denver. So thank you.
Good. Well, thank you, Mr. Sugg. I appreciate hearing that. With that, we'll then move on to our council member comments, and starting with Council Member Wood. Mm-hmm.
I have no comment.
No comment? All right, very good. Councilmember McCluskey. And let me get you recognized there. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. On September 2nd, 2022, I went to the SHAPE meeting that I'm a representative of from this body. And there was a presentation from Mr. Schroeder. He's on the AWC, and he gave a overview of their legislative agenda, and it is strongly focused on pro-housing. So pro-action, pro-housing, affordability, a lot of things that the SHAPE organization has already submitted. We, as a body, has already seen the proposed legislative agenda for SHAPE, and it perfectly dovetails into AWC. So I think they're talking to each other. And so with that, it creates a stronger coalition and support. They're also encouraging and restoring the Public Works Assistance Account, and also redefining the police pursuit for crimes, and also strong support of local communities and having a say in how they develop. It's still on their table. And in addition to that, we went over the draft proposals, and there was really not too much discussion on that. There was a guest speaker, Laura Benjamin, from the PSRC. She's a senior planner, and she is designing with her team what they call place topography, which is really cool. It's an interactive web platform, and she was doing it's not ready for beta, but she was doing some simulations with some PowerPoints. It wasn't really integrating, but it's to link to housing action tools, and in that regards to go into the actions and also the subsidies that dovetails into all of these things. So it's quite an extensive program, but I think it would be very useful. So if you had the map of Pierce County and you hovered around University Place in a certain area, that would pop up the housing needs in that area, also the possible tools on how to integrate it, as well as if there's any subsidies. So it's kind of almost a one-stop shop to get some core foundational information for that. And I'll close my council comments with that.
All right, very good. Thank you. And, excuse me, it's Councilmember Fleming. Do you have any comments this evening? Get your mic on.
Let me get this mic working here, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I'll be very quick. Just two quick things. The last 2 weekends in August, the community had a fundraiser, not a fundraiser, a food drive for our local community bank. Had an opportunity to participate in that one, along with support from Safeway and our Rotary that Mr. Erickson had mentioned earlier. The thing that I find interesting about these community events is how it really galvanizes the community and brings them together. I was blown away to see people just showing up and donating food to the food bank. They raised about 12 to 14,000 pounds of food. It was an impressive weekend on both accounts, and certainly thank the citizens for that supporting the other part of our citizens who are in great need. I want to also put on the council radar screen, there is another group that's starting to look at a program for 2023 called Clean Up. There's a little catch on UP, looking to, during Earth Day in April 2023, of having a one-day turnout of the whole community just to clean up the garbage that's out on the streets. I know our road crews bust a hump trying to keep those streets really clean, but I think we can do better. I know the community thinks we can do a little bit better, and they're going to put together a community effort to have a kind of a one-day concerted effort, everyone turning out. It's kind of in its embryonic stage. There's more to come. We'll keep the council posted as we develop that. So that's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it's interesting to hear about that group. Councilmember Belisi.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to let the community know that on August 8th, the mayor and myself attended the U.S. Women's Amateur at Chambers Bay. We were the welcoming starters for the first hole, and we had an opportunity to greet women that had come not only from across the country, but from across the world, that played Chambers Bay for the entire week for the U.S. Women's Amateur. And I was very impressed and thankful to be able to be a part of that and see the young women and their enthusiasm for golf. And I appreciated spending the afternoon in nice, warm, sunny weather with the mayor as we handed out University Place tees and had an opportunity to talk with some of these women, where they came from and their journeys in golf. And I understand that they had an excellent week with good weather and a good championship. This gave University Place an opportunity to be on the world stage once again. Fox Golf Channel covered the U.S. Women's Open starting on Wednesday and had some fantastic shots because we had some really good weather for the majority of the tournament. So the Pacific Northwest and University Place shined for this event. So I just wanted to let the community know that the golf course is being put to good use.
Very good, thank you. On Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa.
I have no comments. There were no external meetings for August on the committees that I'm assigned to.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Then it's my turn. I have a few things I wanted to touch on. First off, we had I thought a great musical summer, at least so far, with Music in the Park here in front of the Civic Building on Wednesdays. That series of music is over for now, but it was a good turnout. I attended some of those, didn't make it to all of them, but the ones that I was at were well attended. People were having a great time. Also attended music at the Kern Apple Orchard, and that also had a great turnout. I think I was in about three of those 4 events, and they would have 200 to 300 people up on the slope of the orchard, listening to the concert, the music coming out of the band shell, under the trees, maybe having a picnic or something else. It was great. And a very musical month of August for us, and a bit of July too. So that was super to see. Look forward to those programs coming back next year. Speaking of the Kern Apple Orchard, Sunday the 28th was the annual apple squeeze, and I occasionally have a couple of sidelines I do. One of them is I'm a roadie for my wife, and so I helped set up a pop-up tent, and I was the pizza delivery person for the volunteers. And one of our local businesses, frankly, it was Mod Pizza, was very helpful to support the volunteers there. And so I'm not sure what the exact count is, but I want to say it was about 450 folks that were there for the squeeze, and they were having a great time. Families, it seemed to go well, but there's always a need for volunteers. So if you're looking for fun and a chance to connect with the community, the Kern Apple Squeeze that happens the last Sunday of August is a wonderful way to engage. As a volunteer, certainly, and obviously you can be there as someone getting your apples squeezed at the presses they have, and there's lots of different press styles you can use to get there. So next year, but it was a good, successful event this year. Other things that I've had going on is I did attend the Pierce County Sheriff's Department Award. That was this past Thursday, and it's something like many things, just hasn't been able to take place during COVID, and so I attended. There were probably about 100 people there. This was the Sheriff's Department. They've basically deferred this event over the last roughly 2 years. It had a long tradition, but Sheriff Troyer was there presenting awards for life-saving in his department, awards for a variety of folks, including one, well, I have several examples I'll briefly tell you about, but one would be the Law Enforcement Deputy of the Year, which is Deputy Nate Codray, and the Corrections Deputy of the Year, Corrections Sergeant Justin Duray. So some career achievements that they've made and a chance to be recognized. Now, as we're all aware, but I think it doesn't get said enough sometimes, those deputies are our police. And so I think it's important that we we recognize them as appropriate as well. So one of the folks that received an award there was a certificate of appreciation for Leslie Wheeler, which is, Leslie's an Office Assistant 3 here in the UP team, and so she received a certificate of appreciation, and I just want to congratulate Leslie for doing that, and it was, she isn't here tonight, but I appreciate her being there. Can we do just a quick round of applause for her? Way to go, Leslie. And it was a great night recognizing law enforcement in a variety of roles for what they've done. Another report yesterday, during Labor Day, I had an opportunity to talk with Colonel Derek Smith. Colonel Smith is the new commander for the 16th Cap, and he and I had a video conference just to talk about things. He's very interested in continuing the community connection program. I've invited the Colonel to attend one of our upcoming council meetings, probably somewhere in the month of October. He's working on his schedule, and we'll get some more information about that. We'll have some other opportunities, and I understand that he'll be at some of our near-term events. Very, very likely the September 11th Remembrance Day the Fire District puts on, and then I would say very likely would be Veterans Day and our pending dedication of the Veterans Memorial. There's so much to be said about that. But his soldiers, our soldiers, if you will, have been some of the key volunteers involved in that. There's many hands that have made that happen. So those were a few things I wanted to get council aware of. We'll have some opportunity to interact also with Colonel Smith. And there's, if you have any ideas for how opportunities for the soldiers to help, or maybe it's to bring in some equipment for people to get familiar with. They're very open to ideas now. I think there were before, but I think there's more emphasis now as the Army is getting into it's a new phase as a result of various things. I wanted to also say, let's see, tomorrow, September 7th, is the in-district meeting for Pierce County Council. And that's going to be in Furcrest this time. Last year we had it, I think it was last year it was here. But this year it's in Furcrest, and good for them. And that's at 6 o'clock in case anyone would like to attend from council or from the community. And I wanted to mention one other thing. So we did something a little different this year. And I'd like to get some feedback, not at this moment, but individually, if council or the community has any comments they'd like to make. We did not have a second meeting in August. It was a break in our rhythm. This is a budget year. Every other year, the city prepares its budget. We'll be seeing the fruit of that work here soon. If you have any comments about whether that was a good idea or not, things that could be different, please let me know. And I'll keep those comments in mind. So, all in all, I think that's the things I wanted to touch on. So if there's nothing else, we'll move on to our study session. And with the study session, so we're going to, for now, out of our regular session into the study session, where we get to start with some comments about the ARPA Business Assistance Program, and we have a report to hear from our Economic Development Commission that's in your packet. Who would like to start us with that? Is that Mr. Brusky or Becky? Where do we start?
I'm going to start with that. Thank you, Mayor. And we are glad to bring back a report to the council. In February, you assigned the Economic Development Advisory Commission to look at the issue of using some of the ARPA funds for business assistance. And so we thought it was very appropriate to have one of our vice chair for the Economic Development Advisory Commission with us this evening, who will present that information. So I will turn it over to Joshua Koontz.
Thank you, Becky. So like she mentioned, I'm Joshua Koontz. I'm the vice chair of the Economic Development Commission. Just like to start off and say thank you for giving us the opportunity to really work on this and use our expertise to put together some recommendations for how we should use some of these funds to really help some businesses and ultimately some people in the community. So quick summary here, which we have up on the screen. These American Rescue Plan funds, the ARPA funds, we're going to go over some funding options and how we got to the recommendations, but the quick summary is there was about $9.4 million that the University Place is going to receive. These funds must be allocated by 2024 and then spent by 2026. Like Becky mentioned, in February, you tasked our commission to study and make recommendation on how we would use these, which would best assist some of the businesses within the community. So next slide here, we'll go over some of the actions that we took. In our meeting in February, we had a discussion with City Attorney Kaiser about the framework and the boundaries of the use of the funds, so how they could be allocated to the different businesses. And then we had 2 special meetings in March to continue the discussions. We also looked at benchmarking and how other cities were using these funds, so we could see and really look at what was very successful in other cities. And at this time, we also requested that businesses be surveyed regarding lingering COVID impacts and the need for the assistance. At the June meeting, the results of the survey were reviewed, and we brainstormed more recommendations. And in the July meeting, we made our top recommendations, which we'll go over next here. So our next slide has some of the business survey results that came out of the survey that we did. So as you can see here, we had 1,600 postcards that were mailed out to businesses within University Place. Newsletters provided a link to the survey, and the postcard included a QR code which could be scanned and access the survey. So open from May 9th to May 31st. A total of 28 businesses responded to the survey. 7 of those responded were screened out of the survey on the first question, which was basically, did you have impacts from COVID to your business? And they answered no, and they were screened out. So 21 answered the remainder of the survey. There was no significant agreement on the best course of action among those completing the survey, basically on the sample size and the results that were given from that. As you could see, 1,600 postcards and only 21 responses. We use that as more additional information for our recommendations rather than guiding our final recommendations that we have. So, next slide here. Here are the recommendations that we are proposing today. Any additional questions that you may have, just let me know on this. So first, we would like to set aside 50% of the total amount the City Council wishes to earmark an assistance, and then revisit this in spring, summer of 2023, review business needs at that time. As you can see, over the last couple of years, things have been very dynamic, right? So we feel like in any inflationary changes, what may happen in the next year or so, it would be prudent to look at this again in 2023. And then if not, and we feel like we should return those funds, then the City Council would determine the use of the funding for the rest of the 50% in 2023. So that 50% that we're talking about today, we are proposing that we open a process where a business may submit a proposal for use of these funds. The proposal must show that the issue being addressed is a negative impact from COVID pandemic, and then only one proposal per business would be granted, and the maximum ask is $10,000. We came to this recommendation primarily because of the different businesses within University Place. A large portion of the businesses are home-based as well as retail, so there's not one recommendation that would impact all of the businesses. So we felt like the best process would be for them to come forward with a proposal for how they would use the funds. So examples would be, supply chain impacts. A lot of businesses are struggling with childcare costs. Using the funds for labor increases, labor retention bonuses, and then business consulting as well. So impacts from COVID and how they could use those funds in the best way, using a business consultant to actually advise them on that. So that's our primary recommendation there for that process. Second recommendation is to fund a minimum of 2 rounds of a buy one, get one program targeting local businesses. Individuals spend $25 to purchase a gift card redeemable at a local business that is signed up to participate in the program. The purchaser receives a $50 gift certificate. The additional $25 is paid for from the ARPA Business Assistance Fund. This recommendation was actually from our benchmarking activity that was done. This was very successful in a city, I believe in New Jersey, that has done multiple rounds of this. We really thought it would be a good for the businesses as well as to be able to advertise this with their social media and get the word out, not only about their business, about this program, and share. We did take into consideration on this the recommendation, the administrative burden that this would cause both the city as well as the business for doing this. And again, I think we would point back to the benchmarking that was done and that city that was turned out to be very successful in this buy one, get one program. So those are the recommendations for today. Questions for me or the commission?
Yeah, thank you. But first, thank you for the work and the recommendations. I can tell that there's a lot of thought that's gone into them, and I appreciate that effort. And I think it's a very good effort to address what council had asked. I do have one of the questions I had. So they're ranked, or they are listed 1, 2, and 3. Is that actually a preference? So 1 is preferred over 2, 2 is preferred over 3, or you just needed to put a label there?
I would say that they're not ranked.
Okay.
I think number 1 would be setting aside the 50%, and then 1 and 2 go hand in hand. That they would
and your
$10,000 process as well as the buy one get one or one in the same.
So you don't see them necessarily as, in your view, and I'm asking you to try and think of this in the view of the commission. So in the commission's view, is it first we need to put half aside for a reconsideration if in case the future changes. Then we do this one, and then we do this third one, or is it do 2 or do 3?
If you were to frame it like that, we would say that 50% we would put away first, and then we would do both of them. I would say that the first one would rank higher because it impacts both home-based and retail businesses. We did talk about the buy one get one program only affecting retail businesses, as well as it's kind of a short-term impact, right? It's just a one-time use type of thing. So I think the larger impact would be the proposal for the businesses.
Right, great, thank you, appreciate those comments. Council, other questions? And let me go to, actually, Councilmember McCluskey had, I see her listed first, and you were first? I swear you were. Okay, there you are.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Well, between the mayor and you answered several of my questions already. I liked how you looked outside of the box and looked to New Jersey for some prototypes and then bringing it to the city. That intrigued me as a very interesting concept because retail has been struggling quite a bit, and to add that as an option is, I think, would, if it's COVID impacted. But I'm also thinking that we can't use these funds outside of the COVID being impacted, but that's kind of a interesting program for maybe the businesses to look into collectively. Look at the 27 business district, if they can come together and form a group and to figure out some incentive programs to change the behavior of our consumers and to come and actually purchase in their stores. I can think of several struggling businesses that could use a little more foot traffic, and that might be an interesting tool outside of the ARPA piece to that. I'm very interested in qualifying all the businesses that are proposing to do an application for the ARPA funds. One, I'm very interested in the reasons why and how COVID has impacted them, and that could, I know supply chains and things, but to be more specifically in our location as to how that has impacted it. And also this transition to internet purchasing, for retail, groceries, and and other things. And sometimes we need to change our consumer behaviors in order to support some of the vibrant retail communities that we have, because once you get into a habit, and it's so easy to use the Amazon feature for everything, or to just pick up and go for your groceries. And we know as retailers, if you can get them in the store, they can purchase more. They'll see more interesting things to buy that could be intriguing to them. So thank you for all your work and all the extended efforts that the commission has done in regards to this. I like all three of those proposals are interest to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Joshua, thanks for being with us tonight. And I just want to echo the comment that getting outside the box. You know, so oftentimes we hear about programs and things and what have you, but we never really get to the root of the problem, and that is getting people to stimulate the economy within the city. I know some time ago, Steve, you had done a study a few years back which showed 80 cents, I believe it was, of every dollar that consumers spend goes outside our community. COVID certainly didn't help it much, and trying to redirect those dollars back into the city to really continue the vibrancy of the community. I love the ideas you came up with. The one question I have, it has to do with this 2-for-1. Yeah. If someone buys a gift card for, I don't know how it works, but how do we ensure that those dollars are spent within the city versus going to another local jurisdiction?
The benchmarking that was done with the other city was a specific, like a paper gift card where it wasn't a card, it was like a gift certificate that they purchased that could only be used at the specific businesses. We did have a lot of discussion about how that might be an administrative burden. So we don't have a final recommendation on how we'll actually implement this, but it will be guaranteed to be at the businesses that sign up for the 2-for-1.
Awesome. I just applaud and encourage y'all to continue to think outside the box, because that's how we come up with great ideas like this one. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember Fleming. Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'll start with item 3. Like the others have said, and for many of the same reasons, I think it's a very interesting idea, and I like it, again, for supporting the local businesses in the community. A question on number 2. A lot of the expenses of COVID have already been incurred. You know, it started in 2020. We're now approaching, well, late 2022. Would this option only be for future projects, or could people apply for reimbursement for a project that they have already done, say, a restaurant bought outdoor heating because people had to eat outdoors, something like that? Would they be able to apply retroactively for something, or would this be for just future projects? Do you have any visibility on that?
I think the retroactively would have to be, again, tied to make sure that it was specifically due to COVID impact. But that's why we came forward with a proposal recommendation, so we could look at that and make sure that it wasn't directly affected by COVID, whether it was retroactive or something that's moving forward. I think we would be able to make that call to be able to see and use those funds and approve those proposals. And I think if they were specifically tied to COVID, I think we could look at how that would be applied. So,
okay.
Yes.
And just for the record, then, I guess my question might have made it obvious. I would like us to strongly consider a retroactive basis, just because I think a lot of expenses that people have incurred already have been incurred. If they haven't done it by now, they may not.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fair. And one of the ones that moving forward that we really focused on was employee retention. So that may be something that they've already incurred, right? But it was to try and retain those employees, whether it was a bonus to keep them. I think that would be something that would be considered to retroactively pay for. Yeah.
okay. And then finally, on the first one, I don't have any strong feelings one way or another on the 50% set aside, but if we do decide to do that, I would like to know when or how we're going to collect new information to decide what we're going to do with that 50% set aside, whether we're just going to do an assessment in 6 or 8 months, or what of existing programs or what we're doing.
So I think it would depend on how successful the proposal program is, and how much of those funds are used for that, and how successful the buy one, get one program is. If they are both very successful, I think we would come back and ask for multiple rounds of that, where that 2023, by that time, we would use that additional 50%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all I need, Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Councilmember Wood. Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you very much for you coming out and presenting this on behalf of the commission. Please give our thanks to the commissioners as well. I think that that was time well spent, and thank you very much. That being said, I know that the purpose of this study session is to give staff a clue of where we're heading on this whole thing, to give them direction. And so I'd like to at least start on that notion. And with that, I certainly would support and nod toward 50%, knowing that there's something there that can be used for the same programs like he mentioned, if it was really successful. The other thing is, I think we can do both, because 50% is about $350,000 plus dollars. At $10,000 apiece, even if you used $300,000, that's 30 businesses, and that's a lot of businesses. We've barely got that much in the second round of CARES. And $50,000 towards $25 can go a long ways as well. So I think that we can do both at the same time, because I think they're both necessary for the comments that the council members made, which supported both. And I think that I'd like to see this council give direction and having both 2 and 3 go along in expending the 50% of the allotted funds. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa. So, Josh, again, appreciate your efforts there. I did have just one question. I don't think it's a decision point for me, but in the discussion or in the materials, it talks about the gift card program, the 50% match, having at least 2 rounds. And I just was curious, why was that? What's the intent of having at least 2 rounds as opposed to 1 round?
I think the first round, we expect to be very successful, and we're wanted 2 rounds to say that more businesses could enter in the second round, right? So if a number of businesses don't get in the first round and they want to participate in the second round, we would have that already as an option.
Good, thank you. That answers that. Well, I think the recommendations are very intriguing. I do also believe the 50% set aside for see how we do the first time and whatever happens next to the neighborhood. And then both those things make sense. And there does appear to be enough resource to do the other 2, in my mind at least. Let's see. So, Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. It's just one more thing. Is the $25, is there any proposal from the commissioners to limit that to 5 certificates per person, per a household? Is there any caps or limits, or can anybody buy it? And that meaning UP residents, outside UP residents and all that. So that's kind of my general question.
The benchmarking that we did, they did have a cap on by household, how many you could purchase. So I think we would do the same.
What was it?
I'm not sure actually what it was. I think it was 5. Becky might know. I think it was 5 per household.
Yeah.
Okay, 5 per household.
Yeah.
And it was based on the household. Okay, thank you.
Good, great. So I'm getting ready to move on, and I did want to check in with Becky and with Kevin to see if you had any further that you want to touch on before we shift subjects here.
I don't think so. I've been really appreciative of the work that the commission did. They rolled up their sleeves and really dug into this. And I think that we had some excellent discussions and points brought up. And I think these recommendations they've come up with are, as you have said, intriguing and can have some impact.
Very good. Well, thank you, appreciate that. And Josh, please thank your fellow commission members for their efforts. We look forward to the next opportunity we can hear from you as well.
Thank you.
Great. Take care. That's going to bring us to our final item for the evening, and we're going to ask Matt Kaiser, City Attorney, to come forward and help us understand what's going on with the proposed opioid settlement spearheaded by the state of Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Matt Kaiser, your city attorney. Bear with me tonight. My voice is not the best, but I will try and do what I can. As you may know from the original materials, the state of Washington recently entered into settlement talks following significant litigation against 3 opioid distributors. The tentative settlement that the state has reached is up to about $518 million. Of that $518 million, there's the opportunity for local jurisdictions, including University Place, to receive up to $215 million of that settlement. That's not to say UP is going to receive all that, but rather that $518 maximum is proposed to be essentially split between 2 groups of local jurisdictions. The first group is about 35, 37 or so jurisdictions that have also separately filed their own lawsuits against these opioid distributors. We're not in that group. The second bunch, which is where we are located, is about 85 to 95 or so local jurisdictions with a population of over 10,000 in population that have not filed their suits. The state, in order to finalize the settlement, has requested that those jurisdictions, both that have filed suits and that fall into that second category, to sign off on the settlement. That sign off is a necessary requirement for the state to realize it's $518 million. You may ask, why is University Place? We've never filed a lawsuit along these lines. Why are we being asked to sign off on such a settlement? It's been one of the requirements of the state settlement is that the opioid distributors are asking for releases from all the larger jurisdictions and trying to get essentially a critical mass of those larger jurisdictions, and we qualify by population on that. So if we ultimately sign off on the settlement, there is a deadline. I'll talk about that in a second. We would see a pro rata share of the amounts that the state would ultimately receive. That amount has been determined by a formula which has been used in other opioid-related litigation across the state, which would be 0.035% with several decimal places of any of those shares that would be distributed to local jurisdictions. In this instance, UP would receive what would ultimately be a maximum share of approximately $76,000 before attorney's fees. This amount would be paid out over 17 years, with the city to net about $3,800 a year, give or take, on my back of the envelope math. So what's the catch? The catch on this is that those funds, if we did decide to sign off on the settlement, would have to be used for opioid-related purposes. There is included in your packet tonight about a 15-page list, which is derived from that settlement, of non-exclusive but illustrative type uses associated with the settlement that range the gamut across the opioid-related spectrum of care, ranging from identification, treatment, education, outreach, etc. If we did accept these funds, we would be required to keep records of our spending, file reports, etc., and comply with all terms of the settlement. We can also elect to spend the money ourselves or pool the money with other local jurisdictions in this space, whether that's the Tacoma Health Department, local fire district, West Pierce Fire, or other jurisdictions that are looking at this. The state is on a deadline to finalize the settlement. That deadline is September 23rd, about 3 weeks away. If they do not have enough local jurisdictions that sign on, they have shared that the settlement is void. As of just before the meeting tonight, they have 58 jurisdictions that have signed on. In some of the email correspondence I've seen from the state, they've indicated that they're aware a number of other jurisdictions are set to take this matter up throughout the month of September and going from there. There are several settlement documents that UP would have to sign off on, the most critical of which is included in the packet, which is the participation form. That's the document between us and the Attorney General's office saying, yeah, we're in. There are 2 other agreements which I did not include in the packet due to their size, as you can probably imagine from an issue of this import, but there are links in the packet. The second one is what's referred to as the allocation agreement. That's the one that sets up who gets what share. between the state and the local jurisdictions, where that's where our 0.035% comes from, as well as every other participating local government share. And then the final document is what's referred to as the One Washington MOU. There are several other lawsuits that are out there really in the opioid related space. This document would essentially set a framework so that local jurisdictions don't have to touch this issue again if there are subsequent settlements. Most of the terms that are set forth in the One Washington MOU mirror what the state has already reached with the settlement, the tentative settlement that they've reached with these 3 distributors related to use, dispute resolution, those sort of things. I know there's a lot in there. I'm happy to stand for any questions that the council may otherwise have.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. One of the questions I have just to start with, since 76,000 or thereabouts is the estimate before attorney fees, attorney fees are 30%, 50%, 60%?
15.
15, okay. So it's, anyhow, that's not as bad as I feared, nonetheless. Yeah, all right. Well, you know, the opioid crisis is just that. It's a crisis and it's a scourge of a generation. And that affects our people here of a particular age, but we're not at all excluded from this. And we, in my view, want to do whatever we can to help them. But we also have to, in my view, be using tools that make sense for the resources we have. I'll just let it go with that and turn to other council members to begin with. So, Councilmember Wood. And I'll get you on here in just a second. There we are.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. So your back of the envelope math, $3,800 a year, and you mentioned a lot of administrative requirements. Are we going to have administrative requirements that exceed $3,800 as far as staff time?
I don't think so. One of the questions that there's been several webinars on this. One of the questions I had that I specifically asked the AG's office was, look, can we essentially bank the money, or what if we don't use it? And their response, that kind of threw them for a loop. I think they were expecting, yeah, jurisdictions are going to use this, but they didn't see a lot in the way of requirements or any prohibitions against that. What I would readily expect to see is, what did you spend the money on? If we spent the money on nothing, we report we spent the money on nothing and it's sitting in an account somewhere. Or conversely, if we say, here's another local jurisdiction, they handle it, and they may be better suited to handle those requirements because those requirements are already ingrained in their systems.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. Matt, could we assign this, say yes, get the funds and assign them to Pierce County Sheriffs since we have a contract for any opium-related issues in UP?
We actually probably could. We would just want to make sure that they would handle the record keeping, or whatever records they have, we can in turn pass on. But on its surface, I don't see a problem with that as long as they in turn spend it for an allowable use.
So time is short here, so I'm just saying that if it was available to us to pass it on to Pierce County, and they're willing to do all their work, and then they can spend it on any related opium authorized issues in UP. I would like to recommend that because I think that it's a very costly thing to administer for the small amount. I think it needs to be pooled with another jurisdiction. I mentioned Pierce County Sheriff's Department because we already have a contract. I think it might be easy. But if they couldn't do it for whatever reason, I would pull it with anybody else that would benefit with UP.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Councilmember Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also agree. Number one, I find it ironic that the government wants to give us $3,800 a year for 17 years. I find that totally ironic. But be that as it may, I don't believe for a minute that someone's got an idea of an administrative cost to manage the money, and it makes no sense to try to take that amount of money and do it on our own. I do like the idea of looking around to other jurisdictions that are that have a relationship with the city. I think the Sheriff's Department is one good idea. I think the Health Department is another good idea. The school district, for opioid education in our youth is another good idea that we should look at. And maybe I don't know, this may be a staff study exercise to look at who those other relationships are with the city and see where that money could be best used, but move it in that direction versus the city trying to figure this one out for the amount of money.
Councilmember Fleming, thank you. Before I go to Councilmember McCluskey, Matt, I had a question for you. Is in terms of our timeline, we need to decide if we are prepared to sign on the settlement agreement by the next meeting. Do we need to decide what we do with the money by the next meeting?
The state needs the settlement documents in their hands by the 23rd. We do not have to decide by the 23rd what we're going to do.
Okay. All right. Good enough. Thank you. Councilmember McCluskey.
Right. Thank you, Mayor. There's an assurity that if we transfer our funds to another entity, that they will take on all the accounting. That is just a nice, clean transfer from A to B.
If we're going to pool it, I want to make sure
like,
that they're assuming our
done.
obligations on the reporting.
Correct, right. And so the accounting agencies that does audits won't look to University Place. They'll look to that other agency we transitioned it to.
Right, or more accurately, if they look to us, we'll say look to them.
Okay, all right. So I would like to throw in West Pierce in the mix for their connection to care. They have a behavioral health. You know, where our citizens are getting taxed on that, and so to also, I know they deal with overdose issues and behavioral health that's related to opioid crisis that expands all age groups and economic sectors. So I would put that in the hat for us to think about the entity to pass it on. And with that, I would like to get a report from Chief Sharp in regards to that community connection care, because I like an update on, he indicated a couple times that it's a pilot project in Lakewood, and I want to know what's the benefit in University Place and some of the tracking some of the data in University Place that he has incurred on some of his service calls.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember McCluskey. Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to have some closure here, I support and I would nod towards moving forward with accepting the settlement.
Okay. My sense is that council is prepared to consider this issue at the next meeting, and we can take up the funding question. In the meantime, we've identified a variety of potential not funding partners, but agencies to carry this mission out if we choose to fund them, including West Pierce, our local school district, the health department, and the sheriff's department. I have some thoughts about the specifics of that, but I think that can wait. But the main issue is moving forward. So, all right. Well, with that, we may be just about ready to wrap our meeting up. So, Matt, thank you for your help. Council, we're a little ahead of schedule. I don't mind that. Anybody have anything before we call? Okay, we're going to close tonight's meeting. Thank you all for the good work and effort, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. We're adjourned.
Awesome.